Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we are going to be doing an NFL tier list of ranking all of the NFL tight ends that are in this list. Obviously, not every single NFL tight end will be talked about in this video. So if you guys do end up enjoying this tier list, you want to maybe see more tier lists, because I've already posted quarterback, running back, as well as wide receiver on my channel. You want fantasy football content, that's mostly what this channel is about, obviously, but there's also NFL draft content as well as regular NFL content going onto my channel. So if you guys do end up enjoying this video, you want more of that kind of content, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. It helps me out a ton, and it'll help you out too, because I make videos every day, so you guys can have a fun time. Hopefully you do end up enjoying this video. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the rankings in this one, I just went based off of what the tier list maker listed it as, and then I added a category for underused players. These are the kind of guys that, in my opinion, might actually be good, but we have not seen them enough, or the coaching has just held these guys back to the point where I don't want to give them a bad grade, but I also don't know where I could put them because we just have not seen them enough. So that's what that is about. So it's best in the game, great starters, good starters, average starters, fringe starters, underused, and then bench, which is pretty much just dog water. So we begin with Austin Hooper of the Cleveland Browns. Now, a couple of years ago, this guy had a hell of a breakout season in Atlanta, and then he goes to Cleveland, and frankly, he just does, to me, not look as good as the guy we saw in Atlanta. I'm not saying that he's bad. I just don't really know what to think about Austin Hooper, so I think I'm going to put him as an average starter. I don't think there's anything super special about him. He is big, but I don't really see something super special. Like I said, next up we got Chris Herndon, who is the perfect underused, underutilized player, because frankly, we've seen him play good in the NFL, but we've also seen him just get screwed by the fact that Adam Gase legitimately has no idea how to be a head coach. He's been on the Jets the whole time Adam Gase was there. Now, maybe with the new coach, we can actually see Chris Herndon be used correctly, and he could actually be a great starter like I potentially think that Chris Herndon could be. He's shown off some flashes, but we have not really seen him enough because they're just not putting him out there in the correct situations for the guy to eat. Next up, we got CJ Uzomah. To me, he is just a bench player. He's not very good. If they have any tight end of skill, he would instantly pass up CJ Uzomah. I'm not saying this guy's necessarily really a bum. He is in the bench category because I don't like him that much. Don't see anything special, but I also don't think that he's like a fringe starter, because in reality, if they had a decent tight end, he would play over CJ Uzomah. Next up, we have Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears. I actually like Cole Kmet and think he's an average starter. Now, maybe you want to put him in underused because you have not seen him enough, but I did see last year when Jimmy Graham was gone that there was actually a lot of potential coming out of Cole Kmet. Obviously, even with Mitch Trubisky not being all that great, he still had a good season. Now he's with Andy Dalton, so who knows how he's really going to look. But to be honest with you, based on what I've seen out of college and his rookie season, Cole Kmet is going to be an average NFL starter for me. Next up, we have Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Eagles are definitely going to be looking to get rid of Zach Ertz, so it seems like Goedert is going to be the guy there, unless they draft someone, but they did kind of move back in the draft to where Kyle Pitts won't be there for them to select him, so that's very good for Dallas Goedert. I think Dallas Goedert is a good starter to great starter. Dallas Goedert has shown a whole bunch of talent. Now, he hasn't really been able to go out there and necessarily just be the guy game in, game out, because Zach Ertz is still there. While he's injured, the second this guy's healthy, he flies into the depth chart and gets more looks than Dallas Goedert. But we've seen over the years, Goedert and Ertz's snap counts kind of get much closer, and Goedert's been rising in the ranks. He's the best receiver on this Eagles team as of right now, and I think that Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert is a good starter. Next up, we have Dalton Schultz, who's not really going to get too much work next season. I don't think he's really an average player. I just think he's about slightly under that, so I'm going to list him as a fringe starter because I wouldn't be pissed if my team had to start Dalton Schultz, but I also would not be very happy, to be honest with you. Next up, we got the Arnold-nator, Dan Arnold, get to the chopper, tight end of the Arizona Cardinals. I love this guy strictly because of his name. He's actually shown some pretty solid talent, but again, don't want this guy to be my starting tight end, so he is going directly onto the bench. Next up, we have David Njoku. Now, Njoku, coming out of college, was looked at as a very highly talented tight end out of Miami, but what have we seen from him? Not too much. Not enough, because obviously they brought in Austin Hooper. I do like Njoku, and I'd actually list him as underused because I just don't feel like he's gotten as much of a chance as I would like to see him ball out. Next up, we got Mr. Dawson Knox, one time, if you're with me, of the Buffalo Bills. He doesn't seem great on the stat sheet, but that's strictly because they use multiple tight ends on that team. They were kind of maneuvering guys in and out to the point where Dawson Knox just really wasn't getting too much work, so I'm going to put him in the underused category. Next up, we have Mr. Eric Ebron of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Eric Ebron, coming into the league, going to Indianapolis, he was looked at kind of just like Njoku as a freak talent. That's why the fucking Colts drafted him in the first round. But to me, he just seems pretty average. He just doesn't speak to me. He doesn't whisper sweet nothings into my earlobes when I watch the guy play. He just doesn't. He's going to score some touchdowns. He's going to catch some balls. He's going to drop some balls just like all the Steelers wide receivers. But at the end of the day, he's just about average. Next up, we have Eze, Evan Ingram. Now, Evan Ingram is a guy that I have been very low on his whole career. And he is also one of those players that got drafted with a whole lot of hype. Maybe he's going to be exiting stage left after this year. Because, I mean, what has he done? He's just, he goes to the Pro Bowl. I don't fucking know how. He literally can't catch a ball. He's dropping the ball all the time. But I have seen him look good. I'm going to use him as an average starter, but if I'm being honest with you, I think if he starts playing like he played last year, he's going to fall into fringe starters and eventually just ride the bench on either the Giants or some other NFL team. Next up, we have, in my opinion, one of the best tight ends of all time in Roberto Gronkowski. Now, Rob Gronkowski technically can't be in the best in the game list because there's guys that, in my opinion, are better than him. He's also underused. You could put him in there, but I don't think he deserves that. Scored 2 tugs, 2 tutties, is what he told Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. That's what he scored. The guy's a fucking beast. He blocks all the time, but you gotta include that in your adjustment of Gronk, because just because he's not really putting up as big of numbers as he used to, he's just literally laying guys out, being great blocking for old man Tom. So I'm gonna list him as a great starter, even though I want to put him as best in the game. Next up, we have Hayden Hurst. Now, Hayden Hurst is one of those guys that I was tooting the fucking horn to last season. I was like, dude, Hayden Hurst is going to have a big year. I saw it in Baltimore. I know exactly what is going to happen. He's going to be great. And then you know what happens? Just isn't getting the ball much, and he's dropping the ball every once in a while. Just didn't look great. I wouldn't list him as a fringe starter because I think he's a fine starter in the NFL and actually has the potential to be really good, but he's just an average tight end in my opinion. Next up, we have Hunter Henry. Now, Hunter Henry is what I would describe as either good or great. Now, this take obviously assumes that he's able to stay healthy because he has really struggled with injuries throughout his whole NFL career, missing tons of games. But he does look pretty good. I think he's in a bad system now, in New England because Cam's not that great, right? They bring in Janu as well, so it's like a shit show, but I do think he's actually a good NFL starter. Next up, we have Ian Thomas. This is a guy that I actually pretty much sung the praises of, but to me, he just has not gotten enough use in the NFL to be up there with any of these other guys. Next up, we have Jack Doyle, and I'm going to list Jack Doyle as actually a good NFL starter. He is getting up there in age, I understand, but when he is given the ball, he looks fucking amazing. In Indianapolis, for some reason, the tight end kind of recently really ate there, but that's really just because Phillip Rivers was there, and we know that guy has 11 kids, so he loves that tight end. So next up, we got Jared Cook of the New Orleans Saints, now of the Los Angeles Chargers. He took Mr. Mr. fucking Hunter Henry's job, so he's actually also kind of one of the most average tight ends, but I actually would list him as good because I feel he's a little bit better than these guys. He has had a very consistent NFL career thus far, obviously in Vegas as well as in New Orleans. Now I think he should have a pretty solid year in LA with Mr. Justin Herbert. Next up, we got Janu. I think Jonnu is also a good starter in the NFL. Now, he has also kind of struggled with injuries, but the talent itself to me is there. While maybe the numbers aren't, the athleticism is there, and I really think that maybe not New England. Maybe he just won't have the good stats, but again, I do think he's a very talented player. Next up, we got Mr. Jordan Akins of the Houston Texans. This is just a bench guy. They literally switch these guys out, both of the tight ends, who the other guy's name is escaping me. You will never play them in fantasy football. They're just, fringe starter, maybe. I'll move him to fringe starter because he's actually not terrible, but nothing really super special about Mr. Jordan Akins. Next up, we got George Kittle-Me-Timbers, first in the best of the game. Now, there's definitely a huge debate between who the actual best tight end in the NFL is. Because I'll just drag them all up there. The best tight ends, in my opinion, the best two, now there is another guy who's going to end up in this category, is Kittle and Kelce. Which tight end do you guys think is the best in the NFL? Let me know down below, because I am on board that Kelce is better. But again, both these guys are fucking freaks. Jimmy G, even not being great, Kittle still eats. Kittle's eating with these not-so-good quarterbacks, whereas Kelce has Patrick Mahomes, but he was pretty decent before without Patrick Mahomes with Alex Smith. So I do think that Travis Kelce is also a very talented tight end, and in my opinion, he is the best tight end in the league. But he's only like a nipple hair above George Kittle, in my opinion. So they're both get the best in the game tag. Next up, we got Kyle Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, and he used to be one of the better tight ends in the NFL, but frankly, as his age has gone up to me, he's just a fringe starter. He is also in New York with Evan Ingram. So maybe he steals Evan Ingram's job that I was talking about a little bit earlier. Next up, we got Logan Thomas. Is it a one-year wonder, or will he become a good or great NFL tight end? Came out of school as a quarterback, then in Washington just magically becomes a tight end, and is just, I literally had no idea who this guy was, and he's just a fucking monster. Absolute monster. So I'm going to put him in good. He doesn't get great yet, but he's also he's closer to average starters than he is definitely to great starters, in my opinion. Next up, we have Marky Mark Andrews, I should say, of the Baltimore Ravens. Woo woo! Big truss. What happened, Mark? What happened? 2019, you're a fucking baller. I was singing the praises of you all offseason. You ate, you destroyed. 2020, you kind of slowed down. What was that about, Mr. Mark? But at the end of the day, I still think he's one of the better tight ends in the league, so I'm going to list him as a great starter in the NFL. Next up, we got Mike Gesicki of the Miami Dolphins. Now, I am a Dolphins fan, no bias in this. I think he actually is a great starter in the NFL. The numbers show it. He's top 5 in a bunch of the categories in numbers, I believe. Very talented. Fucking huge. Always open for Tua to throw on the ball. Looked better with Fitzpatrick, but that's because Gesicki wasn't getting a shit ton of separation, and Tua last year, as you guys know, he was kind of pussyfooting it around. Wasn't necessarily throwing it unless you were more open. Don't think he's gonna do that in 2021. I think Gesicki finally gets the praise that he deserves. And maybe the guy that we're going to talk about last ends up there as well. And we got the 2 tight end set in Miami. Next up, we got Noah Fant of the Denver Broncos. Now, Fant, to me, is also a very good tight end. I don't think he can really hold Mr. Gesicki's jockstrap, but at the end of the day, Noah Fant is also very talented. Even with the struggling at the quarterback position with Drew Lock, he has still shown to me a lot of talent in the NFL, and I am very happy putting him there as a good tight end. Next up, we got Robert Tonyan, another guy who kind of came out of nowhere. I'm going to put him in good, but he also could be great if he continues to have the amount of targets and the amount of looks he was getting last year, because he was very, very good last season with Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Next up, we have Ryan Izzo of the New England Patriots, and we have not seen him enough. He is actually technically a bench player, but I'm going to put him in underused because we have not really seen too much out of him due to injuries. Next up, we got great tight end over here, T.J. Hockenson. T.J. Hockenson is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. This guy could, if Stafford was still there, he's probably going to reach best in the game, but Stafford's gone. Now Jared Goff is there. Will he be able to reach that? I don't know. But the tape shows me that this guy's really good even on a pretty shitty team. Next up, we got Eifert, one of my favorite tight ends in the NFL, but he's a bench player at this point, frankly, just not a starter. Next up, we got Tyler Higbee. Yikes, 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 yikes. Yikes. That's all I have to say about him. Yikes. I mean, like, the fucking ceiling was the moon. The hype was there, but he didn't do it. In 2020, he just did not do it. But he looked good in 2019, so I'm going to put him as average, but it's not looking too great for Mr. Higbee if he has another down year. Next up, we got Darren Waller, who is the final best in the game tight end. Darren Waller, this guy's story is amazing. If you look up Darren Waller, the story of Darren Waller, maybe, you learn about his struggles and what he became. Unreal tight end, one of the best in the game for sure. Now, I understand some people will argue, oh, he's just great. But frankly, if you say that, I genuinely don't think you've seen enough of Darren Waller. Now, I understand he's on the Raiders, so, who's really watching the fucking Raiders? Shout out to the Raiders fan in the comments, who I love, very nice guy, down below in the comments. But shout out to him, obviously. But no one's really watching too many Raiders games, so I understand why people might think that. But literally, you go and fucking Google, you type in the stats. I'm not telling you to watch a highlight tape, because obviously that makes every guy look good. But you watch the highlight tape. His highlight tape is comparable to a guy like Kittle, to a guy like Kelsey, in my opinion. I really do like Darren Waller of the Las Vegas Raiders. Next up, we got Will Dissly, who's just a fringe starter. Just a fringe starter. There's a lot of guys on Seattle that could start as well, so just fringe. Zach Ertz keeps getting injured. He was great, or elite, really. He was great or best in the game a couple of years ago, but he's really fallen. To be honest, to me, he's just a fringe starter at this point. Finally, we got the rookie, Kyle Pitts, who's going to get drafted probably in the top 5, top 6. We haven't seen him yet in the NFL, so if you want the true rankings, it's right here without Kyle Pitts, but I'm going to sneak him in here, and I genuinely believe Kyle Pitts will be up here with the greats in the NFL coming out of Florida. Guy's a fucking monster. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Again, let me know if you guys consider Waller to be the best in the game, one of the best in the game. Or is it exclusive to Kelsey and Kittle, as well as who's better, Kelsey or Kittle? Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did end up enjoying. And again, it's all opinion. All opinion. If you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But, it's just my opinion. This is not fucking vital. The NFL coaches aren't going to see this. I doubt any of these players are going to see this. But I like all these guys. Proud of them being in the NFL. But, got to rank them for the purposes of a video. So I hope you guys did end up enjoying. I do love you guys all. Make sure to have a safe rest of your day. Happy Easter if you celebrate that. I hope that you get a nice chocolate bunny in the morning. I love you all, as always. Good boy.